Hey guys, thanks for stopping by for another episode. In today's video, we'll be talking about latest updates as to why we saw a big market crash yesterday with stocks and crypto, what happened with Ethereum and BitMine Immersion Technology ticker BMNR. We'll also be talking about technical analysis price predictions, for Ethereum and BMNR, what the upside is now a time to buy, sell, or hold. And I will be playing a video clip of tomlee with his overall assessment of where things are just with the recent markets, as well as the overall long-term use case for Ethereum and BMNR. Now, if you're new to this channel and you enjoy this content, I would really appreciate you hitting the like, subscribing for more related content. Let's begin, guys.
Believe today's decline is the biggest in more than 6 months. But it's good to see the VIX spike. The VIX spiked at 1.29% today. That's the 51st largest ever spike in the VIX. So we're a top 1% move in sort of what I'd say the market seeking safety. And so I think it's a good flush that's happening today. I would like to say the market is concerned, but as your other guests have said, especially Rick, I mean, unless there is a real structural change, this pullback is a buying opportunity.
Wow, 51st biggest move for the VIX. So why is it good that the VIX is responding? What does that signal?
It shows you that investors are seeking protection. And
do you expect that to happen again, absent some further escalation with China?
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible, Brian. And I think that the markets lived through this February to April, and it was a day by day panic, and maybe there's echoes of trauma people are thinking about, and we do know that these are important issues. So I wouldn't want to be glib in saying, hey, this is nothing, because the market is making a big move. But to me, if I said, okay, what are the reasons stocks have been attractive for the past 12 months? It's been about the innovation coming from AI, and it's the innovation as Wall Street looks onto the blockchain, and now it's the Fed that's beginning an easing cycle. These three things have structural tailwinds that aren't disrupted because of potential even rare earth dispute with China.
Do you want to see the market not end on its lows? We're not on our lows right now.
Well, it's Friday, and it's a long weekend. So as you know, a lot of people like to shut down their computers. So I wouldn't be surprised if we might see the market close on its lows. But to me, I don't think it's a signal. As you know,
So as soon as the market opened, about an hour later, Trump, he posted on Truth Social, it's hostile China. He's imposing 100%, tariffs on China. And what happened? The entire market started tanking. Initially, it didn't tank as bad. And then there was an official announcement where, it started just dropping, stocks, Mag 7, crypto had huge drops. And then, with the announcement of the 100% tariffs, that dropped even further. And then what happened after that? Trump confirmed he hasn't canceled the meeting with, Xi Jinping yet. And that kind of gave a slight uptick up. Merlin the trader posts the same entities that triggered the crash are now buying the dip, thousands of ETH moving off exchanges. This is how the cycle resets. Paper hands panic. Whales prepare for the next leg up. So what are we seeing on Coinbase? We're seeing, lots and lots of ETH, just purchases as soon as the market reacted to this news. And this is really how the whales make a lot of money. In fact, there were some short whales that shorted, whether it's, the stock market, crypto, that was all done. And was that all through news before the market crash? Who knows? But a whale bought 92 million in ETH after the market crash. They liquidated everyone and now buying the dip. I mean, these are the big time whales. They wait until market reaction takes place, capitulation happens, and then they load the boat. Rip Trader, he posts, the overall perspective for BMNR. He's saying the roadmap is unfolding exactly as planned on September 2024. I shared the four-step path to $100, and so far, two out of four have played out perfectly. Scenario one, bottom near $47, which we have here. Scenario two, topped around $62 to $65. Scenario three, currently in motion, expecting a retest around $50 to $52, which is, where we currently are after the market dip. Scenario four, the ultimate breakout, the bazooka move towards 95 to 111. At this rate, $100 looks easy peasy, and he has that forecasted sometime, around the range of like November, December. So I think there's going to be a lot of upside with BMNR. And yes, I understand it's very painful to see, your account go down. Even if you have some funds, sprinkling in dollar cost average is the best way to go. Let's take a look at technical analysis for Ethereum before we switch over to BMNR. So what are we looking at currently? We have current, Fibonacci levels on. I also have the, buy the dip indicator as well. What are we seeing? We had the buy the dip indicator turn on, on Friday, especially with ETH having a big pullback. I mean, let's take a look. We had a big bearish movement. I mean, it broke below the 0.78 fib. It retested the 0.618 fib. I mean, that happened back in September. We previously had that, bullish candle. It started marching up and then it had a major pullback, retested that 0.618 fib. Can we get, even below? We did actually test, zero point 0.5 fib, and it bounced quickly. That was the major retest there. But to me, I personally don't think that we're going to get any lower than this. I do think that we're still in a bullish momentum run. And this was just a short term, just wiping out all of those who have stop losses on, and market makers are just doing this last minute shakeout before, they push the price up in Q4 as the last, push for the rest of the year. But I think what we're seeing right now, this major correction that we just saw, this is putting Ethereum at that position where it could easily V-shape up. And again, who knows how the markets will play out, right? But the key thing is, taking advantage on the dips. It did, hit the zero point 0.5 fib levels. And I think now, with what we're seeing, it bouncing back up to 3,800. We were there not too long ago, September 2025, and we saw it, test back to 4,800. So I think where we have this mode of volatility, that's going to give Ethereum the feel to, get up to the next leg up soon enough. We might just break above, retest the 0.786 fib. And then once we do that, I think, we could very well achieve the 1.618 fib level in the rest of 2025. I was forecasting we will get, around that 7,800 sweet spot. I still think that's possible, especially with the volatility we're seeing. It could very well just squeeze from here on out. Let's take a look at technical analysis of BMNR. So I have a couple indicators on. I have the RSI level turned on. I got volume. I got Fibonacci support resistance levels. But let's just take a look. I also got momentum indicators. The momentum indicators, I like looking at that just to give us an overall perspective on, the upside as well as the downside. So, Elliott Wave, we had, the momentum candle represented in red. That created the Elliott Wave 1. And then we had that bearish candle kick in, and then that created Elliott 2. And then we had a reversal to the upside right at that 0.382 fib. We got that bullish candle kick in, and that created Elliott 3 on that top right above, 0.78 fib. It didn't, break above the, the one level fib. And then we got that bearish candle, just with yesterday. I mean, big yellow candle. And now are we going to see it followed by, teal candles? Sometimes that's expected. And let's say if Monday is a V shape, it could switch into gears where we can see an engulfing candle, but only time will tell. I mean, whether it's going to be an engulfing candle on the technicals, a V shape, or we're going to see, some teal establish. I think that we're creating that Elliott 4, and Elliott 4 is, around, I think the base is going to be somewhere around that 0.382 fib. So, if you can buy the dip, if you can wait, let's say if it gets to 47, great, just bring the dollar cost average down. But as soon as Elliott Wave 4 gets finished, we're going to have that nice reversal to the upside Elliott 5 wave, and we will be in the right position to have this, appreciate at really high volume, high speed capacity. I think it's going to be, somewhere in, October, November timeframe. We're going to see this nice run up even through December, but we're just having the technicals play out with all of the catalysts that have been impacting the stock. I mean, just as we're looking at the weekly charts, one key thing that we're seeing is just, higher lows, right? I mean, back in, July, we got support of $30, September, $40, support where we are right now, like in October, like around $50. So increments of 10, we're seeing higher lows. That's playing out. That's definitely a good sign of MNAV increasing. Yes, ETH took a big beating, but I think we're in a good position. Of course, there may be volatility next week. We'll have to see, but long term, markets will always win. Continue to just remain focused. I know it's painful.
Well, here's Ethereum's price since 2018. And as you can see, there's two periods I'm shading here. These are called bases. And in Wyckoff's methodologies, they say the bigger the base, the bigger the breakout. And what they mean by that is that you're creating a lot of potential energy as a stock or a network asset bases, and then eventually leads to a breakout. Well, let's look at that breakout. In 2020, that breakout took place, and Ethereum went from $90 to $48.66, or 54 times increase. Well, the low point here in this base was $13.85. So with this breakout, we're expecting an upside move. Is it potentially 54x? I'm not sure, but that's what happened last time. Another way to think about Ethereum is the Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio. And in our view, the tailwinds I'm talking about argue for an all-time high in this ratio. The 8-year average Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio is 0.04790. And it's currently 0.04032, meaning we're below the long-term average. The all-time high in this ratio was 0.080727. Of course, it started off higher, but I'm talking about the 2021 all-time high. So we think that not only should Ethereum recover to the long-term average, it should probably get to the all-time high ratio and arguably exceed it as we start talking about Ethereum acting as the chain for both Wall Street to build its payment rails and the financial system, as well as AI. So let's think about what that means for price. So I have a grid here. On the left side is Bitcoin price levels, and then going across are various levels of the Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio. Our year-end target, this is from the Fundstrat side, for Bitcoin is $250,000. And if you look at the 8-year average, okay, then you can see the range of prices for Ethereum using this ratio and different levels of Bitcoin. And here's the 2021 high. And as you can see, at a $250,000 Bitcoin, you get to somewhere between $12,000 and $22,000 value per Ethereum token. But that's just a ratio recovery. If you look at the replacement cost of payment rails and the banking system, that gets you to an implied value of Ethereum of around 60,000. And that puts the ratio at roughly 0.2500 Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio. And as you can see, that's how you get to $62,000 per Ethereum token. So plenty of upside. I also asked Fundstrat's Mark Newton for his technical take on Ethereum, and he thinks Ethereum could reach 9,000 by early January. According to him, Ethereum could reach 9,000 in late January, but he also believes that in September, Ethereum could be set to reach somewhere between 5,500 or so.
So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this content. Let me know what your thoughts are, what your predictions are. I feel your pain. Let's just remain focused, dialed in, and everything will be all right. Thanks, guys.